Hello and welcome to Ian Foreign News' Backpage Roundup. This is where we talk about all the sporting action that's taken place today. I am your host, Bryce Donaldson, and I'm joined here today by...
David Roney.
And John Menzies.
Perfect. Well, we're just going to jump straight into it. So we have noticed in a lot of the papers, they're obviously talking about tonight's Champions League action. Of course, the two British teams that will be playing tonight will be Manchester United against the Italian stallions Juventus, and Manchester City, the other side of Manchester, versing Ukrainian side Shakhtar Donetsk. So what do we think about the chances of these two teams against their opponents tonight, boys?
Well, if we're talking about Manchester United, it's a very tough game. They're coming off that disappointing draw against Chelsea at the weekend, and Juventus themselves are coming off the draw in the league as well. But you've got to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, a legend at Manchester United, coming back to Old Trafford for a second time. Of course, being there for that game against Real Madrid quite a few years ago under Fergie's reign. So it's a different atmosphere. There's different feeling to this game going into it, knowing that Manchester United have underperformed this season. They're not to the heights we saw last season, finishing second in the league, whereas Juventus, obviously being the Italian powerhouse they are. It's going to be a tough game for United, but that fight back against Newcastle and even the one against Chelsea, it should be put up for a good game.
Of course, Tony Martial had a brilliant weekend, scoring 2 goals. Do we expect him to start tonight?
You'd imagine so. He scored the equaliser in that Newcastle match as well. When he first came to England, a lot of people doubted his ability, and I think it was only Wayne Rooney has scored more goals for Manchester United post Fergie. So that just shows the impact that he's had in the short few years he's been at Manchester United. He struggled to get in a team quite recently, last couple of years. People saying there's a fallout with him and Mourinho. It doesn't seem the case. But when you've got players like Alexis Sanchez really underperforming, you expect Martial to start. I think it'll be an unchanged team, maybe 1 or 2 changes potentially from that Chelsea match. I don't really see Mourinho changing too much early into this match.
And of course, last year, Pep Guardiola faltered in Ukraine. How do you see his chances against the team at this time around?
I think they've definitely got a good chance. They're perhaps not as good this season as they were last season, but I think particularly with the returning Kevin De Bruyne, he came on for I think the last half hour against Burnley on Saturday. I think they've got a better chance. I mean, they've not necessarily improved too much in the summer city, but I think they've just been getting better and better under Guardiola, and I think they should be too strong for Shakhtar tonight.
In recent weeks rather, we've seen Aguero find a wee bit of form. Would you expect him to start tonight over Jesus?
It's a tough one. I think Guardiola's been favouring Jesus in the Champions League so far this season. I know he started Jesus against Lyon when they got beat at the Etihad. I think on current form, Aguero definitely deserves to start, but it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, if he did put Jesus in, because, I mean, Gabi Jesus is more than capable. Although Aguero, as I said, is in better form and perhaps is the better player. I think personally, I think he'll start with Jesus tonight over Aguero.
I think it's quite interesting, Pep Guardiola's comments as well, saying that he doesn't see the City team challenging for the Champions League this season. He says that there's nothing really special about the City team. They've struggled in these first couple of games. That match against Lyon, that they were out without Pep Guardiola after the incident that happened in that Liverpool match, and then they succumbed to a draw as well, if I'm right in saying, the previous Champions League game.
Hoffen, is it Hoffen?
Yeah, Hoffenheim. I think
they won 2-1.
They won 2-1, but they went behind very early as well. So it's going to be a tough test. I think the biggest talking point from the 5-0 win at the weekend against Burnley was Riyad Mahrez. Fantastic player. He's struggled a wee bit to adapt to Pep Guardiola's style of play and even missed that penalty against Liverpool in the goalless draw. But he scored a brilliant goal at the weekend. I think he's probably going to be a player we're going to see included in that game tonight. And I think if they get a very convincing result, I think we could see maybe pick up a bit of one, and maybe Pep's just saying that to kind of ease off the pressure for the reigning Premier League champions.
Okay, well, another bit of footballing news has hit a lot of the back pages today is this whole saga about Usain Bolt, obviously former athlete extraordinaire, more gold medals than fingers, but he is playing his football in the land down under with the Central Coast Mariners, and it's come out today that he will, to sign with the club, they will possibly need a wee bit of extra investment, and the whole kind of situation just seems a wee bit perplexed. Do you think that Usain Bolt will stay in Australia to play his football, or do you see him still playing football at all?
I think he would like to still play football, whether it's in Australia or not. I know he turned down an offer from the Maltese team Valletta earlier this month, I think I'm right in saying. I think he just really wants to play football, and Mariners were really the first team to give him a chance, take him up on the 2-month trial that he's been on. It's an interesting situation because obviously it came out the end of last week that his agent Ricky Sims came out and said that he'd been offered a deal by the Mariners, but then the Mariners head coach came out a couple of days later saying that, I think it was after the Brisbane Roar game, that no such deal had been offered, and he hadn't heard anything about it himself, and perhaps suggested that Bolt would be down the pecking order at the Mariners, which I'm sure someone as like massive as him, not necessarily in footballing ability, but just as like a presence in sport, it wouldn't necessarily be what he would want. But yeah, I think if he doesn't get a deal with the Mariners and it is scrapped, indeed, I think I can see him going after another club, or like trying to get a deal at another club.
Okay, well, we've also seen the record report that Rangers Europa League opponents Spartak Moscow have sacked their manager. Now, this comes as a bit odd timing before a big European game for them, but we've seen this before, specifically for Rangers, David.
It's a case of deja vu, almost. Happened before the Rapid Vienna game. They went on to win 3-1. It's happened right before this game, coming up on Thursday against Spartak Moscow. You know, it is surprising. Spartak Moscow won the Russian league last season. They are sat, I believe, 7th in the Russian league table, about 7 or 8 points behind Zenit, which you don't want to see, but you understand that they might have just, it's almost like a panic sacking just to get someone in that maybe has experience, but you never know, they might have shot themselves in the foot here. They might have actually given Rangers a chance here. I think a lot of people wrote off Steven Gerrard's sign to challenge in this Europa League group, and now they're sat top of it with a draw and a win. So you'd imagine if they go to Russia, very tough place to go when you're facing either team, just the travel, the climate, and if they do get a result here, we could be talking about Rangers getting into the last 32 of the Europa League, which, for the absence in European competition in recent years, for what, about 5 or 6 years they've not really competed at this level, it could be quite surprising. And yeah, they got their first away win in the league at the weekend against Hamilton. I think Steven Gerrard even said himself 4-1 flattered them. They weren't at their best. 2 penalties and then a goal right to death from Morelos, but it's a tough one with Rangers. They've been so good in Europe, but domestically they've not really hit the heights that maybe Steven Gerrard wants. I think he even says himself that maybe he's asking too much. So it'll be interesting to see. If they get a result, it'll be massive for Rangers, and I think massive for Steven Gerrard himself in his short reign as a manager.
And just a quick word on last night's match, which was which was mentioned in the Metro, which was, of course, Arsenal's drubbing of Leicester. Can we get a quick word on who was your man of the match each?
I'd say Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, I would go for Ozil as well.
As well. Of course, it's the second time that Aubameyang's come off the bench and put 2 away.
He's got the best goals per minute ratio in the Premier League since he's signed. I think it's 100 every 105 minutes he scores.
I think I saw a stat as well that in the last half dozen games he's taken 6 shots and scored 6 goals as well. So it's conversion.
You've got to give Arsenal credit as a whole. Unai Emery's come into this, and it's going to take some time to get used to his style of play post Wenger. But you've had the last 10 games they've drawn at half time, and they've went on to win every single one of those games. 10 games in a row with a win, 7 in the Premier League. People say, oh, maybe it's the level of competition. I think these next few weeks are going to be really challenging. They've got the Spurs North London Derby at the start of December. I think that's probably the toughest test. If you do get a massive result in that, it'd be all guns blazing. But I think Mesut Ozil, for the criticism he gets, he has to be applauded for his performance last night. A goal and 2 assists, I believe.
At least one. So.
And that third goal as well. They're having almost like a goal this season competition with themselves. The goal against Fulham with Aaron Ramsey, great team effort. And then I think this one was just as good, if not better. And it really shows that Unai Emery is maybe instilling the attacking football he wants from this Arsenal team. That sure he did maybe domestic with PSG, but maybe didn't do it in Europe. So if we see this Arsenal team compete in Europa League in the later stages of competition, then we could see them maybe challengers for top 4, if not maybe in the near future challenging for a league title.
Perfect. Well, it's a case of clinical finishing for the African, but moving away from football, we're going on to a different ball sport, this time golf. Of course, Sergio Garcia won the Valderrama Masters in Andalusia. So, obviously off the back of a great Ryder Cup as well. Where do we see him going for the rest of the season?
Well, I mean, he's definitely got the momentum. Because before the Ryder Cup, he'd had a pretty poor year. For him personally, he wasn't playing very well. But his Ryder Cup record speaks for itself, and I just think the momentum's kept rolling for him. He's playing very, very well off the back of that, because he had a fantastic Ryder Cup. He obviously beat the record for most points scored by a single player in Ryder Cup history. And yeah, he's I think he finished 4 shots clear as well in the Valderrama Masters. So he's playing very well at the moment, and there's no reason why he can't continue that to go into the rest of the season.
I'm a big fan of Sergio. I'll put my hands up and say, and it was tough to see that he wasn't really performing. I think especially I look back at the Masters when he I think 4 or 5 over par. Just keep hitting it on the same hole and kept hitting it into the pond, and again. It was almost like watching a replay for 2 or 3
Bit
days.
of deja vu, maybe.
Yeah, and people were saying, "Oh, why is he being that wild card pick for the Ryder Cup?" I thought it was just without a question that he should have been in, and as John touched on, he had the most points ever for a European player at the Ryder Cup. I think it's like 23 or 24.
25, I think
25, and just unbelievable feat, and I'm so happy to see that he's carried that form into these competitions. But we'll need to see him at a major. I think that's a bit of downtime in these next few months, laying into the new year, and then with the Masters coming up again, the UK Open as well, and even the US Open probably later or early in the next year. We'll really see what Garcia's got to offer once again at the highest level.
Well, that is all the action from the Backpages today. We'll be back soon with another episode. Catch you then.